Call me Jinx.
That's me!
Okay, so we're probably confused. Arcane and Moby Dick? What? Yeah, I get that's not really an obvious comparison, but let me explain. Unlike what you might be thinking, those two stories really have a lot in common. Sure, they were made in completely different times, circumstances, and mediums, but their storytelling ambition and what drives their main characters forward is exactly the same. And it all starts with the most basic question of all. What is Arcane / Moby Dick even about? That might sound like a no-brainer at first, but when you dig into what really made us all fall in love with Netflix's 2021 animated series, and new answers just keep popping up. Arcane is about family, politics, tradition and innovation, friendship, love, and everlasting bonds. It's about systematic inequality, organized crime, police brutality, privileged life, and gender roles. It asks what it means to be a hero and what lines shouldn't ever be crossed if you don't want to be turned into a villain of somebody else's story. One could even say that it's simply about life in a world that's both more magical and just as realistic as our own. That all-encompassing quality can be seen just as clearly in Moby Dick or The Whale. Herman Melville's 1851 novel deals at one point or the other with pretty much every big topic imaginable. And it's more groundbreaking than most of you probably think. It starts with a main character getting into bed with a brown sailor from a fictional island on the South Pacific with a somewhat reassuring thought: better sleep with a sober cannibal than a drunken Christian. Again, it's 1851. And then sprawls into a big emotional meditation on race, obsession, madness, biology, religion, human interference with the natural order, democracy, and authoritarianism. Most of all, Moby Dick deals with a topic on the existence of God, purpose, and our never-ending quest to achieve it, or simply put, kill it. The hunt for our own personal God is exactly what connects two seemingly distinct and different characters, namely Captain Ahab and Jinx. And by God, I don't actually mean whatever constitutes in the world of League of Legends for our father, Destroyer of Worlds, J. Robert Joshua Heimer, his leftist son, Johnny Christ Superstar, and their non-binary relative, Cousin It. One of Riot Games' executive producers recently confirmed that Arcane is part of the same canon as the game. But whatever it means for the cosmology of the series, if anything at all, I'm by no means a LoL expert, it doesn't mean that much for character motivations. So, what motivates Powder as Jinx was known in her younger years? When you first meet her in Arcane, she's still a young girl, smart and resourceful, but also pretty chaotic and a bit clumsy. Like many children her age, she very much looks up to her older sister Violet, or V, and her two main friends. Even more so because of her troubled past and the death of her parents at a very early age. Powder wants to be like her older peers, but she lacks necessary skills to become a successful thief. She is shown on numerous occasions to actually be a hindrance to the mission performed by V, Milo, and Clagger. Dependence on other people isn't anything strange at such a young age, but that headstrong motivation to become like people closest to her does not come from a healthy place. Powder feels like she doesn't belong, like she's different, broken, like she's a weirdo. She wants to prove her worth. Unfortunately, that desire to help clashes with her lack of experience and good judgment, which in turn inadvertently causes the deaths of Milo, Clagger, and Powder's adoptive father, Vander. What is in some ways even more tragic, V becomes the witness to all of her sister's destructive actions. In her anger and grief, she strikes Powder, then gives her a new name, Jinx, and leaves poor girl among the burning wreckage. Heartbroken and abandoned, Powder quite literally clings to the only father figure that is still available to her. Silco, a biggest crime lord in Undercity and a former friend of Vander's turned bitter rival, becomes her new crutch to lean on to. In a show chock full of great characters, Silco is probably the most interesting one. Arcane manages to deliver a fully fledged villain that subverts all the tropes of a character such as he, yet at the same time still manages to be intimidating, morally grey, and a real threat to the protagonist. He pretty much deserves a separate video devoted to just him, but in regard to today's topic, all we need to know is that Silco becomes Jinx's sole reason to exist, while also being the last obstacle she needs to beat before truly embracing her new persona and living on her own. And here we come back around to Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. As it is clearly shown both in Melville's book and Netflix's series, Ahab and Jinx are mentally unwell and unstable. Their obsession is eating them from the inside. The shadow of the past engulfs both characters so fully that they have trouble interacting with regular people. Ahab is unable to forget his fateful meeting with an enormous white sperm whale, whom the whalers deemed as Moby Dick. The beast, as he calls it, bit off his leg, and he now wears a prosthetic one made out of whale bone. Jinx is unable to let go of the past as well, still blaming herself for her friend's death, while harboring a grudge against V, because she seemingly have completely separated herself from the younger sibling. At the beginning, Moby Dick, just like Silco in his story, can be perceived as a straight-up antagonist of the book. However, as the narration grows, we're given more and more conflicting stories about the white whale. Some sailors view him as a malevolent, dangerous, and fully sapient monster, which targets humans in his wrath.
Speak not to me of blasphemy, man. I'd strike the sun if it insulted me. Look ye, Starbuck. All visible objects are but as pasteboard masks. Some inscrutable yet reasoning thing puts forth the molding of their features. The white whale tasks me. He heaps me. Yet he is but a mask. 'Tis the thing behind the mask I chiefly hate. The malignant thing that has plagued and frightened man since time began. The thing that mauls and mutilates our race, not killing us outright, but letting us live on with half a heart and half a lung.
Others tell a completely different tale. From their point of view, Moby Dick can be seen as an intelligent and beautiful animal. One free of any ill will, but dominated by sheer instinct, a desire to survive and protect other specimens in its path. Moby Dick and Silco are in fact leaders in their respective communities. But to the outside world they seem like a threat. And true, both are dangerous and violent, but one could argue they act out more in defense of their territory than a simple aggression. At the same time, Ahab and Jinx have one crucial difference, because Pequot's captain is a driving force of that outside world, while Jinx, until the very end, stays a part of Crime Lord's inner circle. And while we are given numerous opportunities to doubt both of their loyalties, it turns out Silco and Jinx stayed true to each other. Still, there was doubt, and where is doubt, mistakes happen. The return of V woke up new conflicting feelings in her sister. A desire to believe in Violet's good intentions and uneasiness whether she could still trust Silco clashed with loyalty to her second adoptive father and jealousy caused by an appearance of Caitlin Kinnaman from wealthy Piltover. The hurricane of emotions effectively brought Jinx to her lowest point, which is why she took all three characters to the place Vander, Milo and Clagor, and effectively Powder too, died. Of course, they died only in a physical sense, because as Jinx proclaims in that very moment,
nothing ever stays dead.
Just as Ahab still feels phantom pain in his lost leg, she too feels the presence of her lost comrades. That crucial moment is a test for both Ahab and Jinx, But here they take two very opposed paths. Obsession dictated how they lived their last few years, and until its reign is over, neither can truly be free. There are only two options left. They can only kill the reason for their suffering or let go of the past. In Judeo-Christian tradition, God is everything. The Gospel of St. John starts with a famous phrase, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God," which not much later is expanded with, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us." In the same way, obsession is everything for our two characters. And it was made flesh on that fateful day when Ahab lost a leg to Moby Dick, and Powder unwillingly killed all those closest to her, apart from one. Moby Dick is Ahab's god and his devil. Vi and Silco share and alternate those traits for Jinx, depending on her current state of mind. While from a cultural standpoint, those are two opposing forces, good and evil. Devil's beginning and his end are also with God, who is all. So why does it matter, you may ask? Well, the truly important thing is that Ahab and Jinx chose differently in their final breaking moments. Whether they do it fully aware of the consequences and in a sound state of mind is of course up to a very heated debate, concerning what kind of mental disorder both suffer from. Still, time and time again, Ahab rejects his crew's emotional help and numerous opportunities to abandon the quest for the white whale. He's a fanatic, and a damned man leading all of his crewmates straight to the watery grave. But he wasn't always like that. In the book, we hear that Ahab's mother was insane, so some sort of mental illness may have been generational. At the same time, people who knew him before the encounter with Moby Dick paint Pequot's captain as a great sailor, good husband and father, even a courageous leader, that once refused to abandon hope and saved his crew during a great typhoon near the coast of Japan. In Nantucket, he became somewhat of a living legend. Yet, when a reader meets him, he's not the same person anymore. Ahab did not change his name like Powder Jinx, but he just as well may have. With each passing chapter, his madness grows, together with rage and gradual animality. By the end of his life, he's so obsessed, so lost, that even mere contact with Ahab drives those unprepared to insanity. He's no longer a part of a civilized world, a deity of vengeance for those who feared and respected him, or a complete madman for those who hated him. And he fails, obviously, because Moby Dick is no longer an animal. He's everything. He's God, and God can't be killed. A whale can, a god can't. Jinx, on the other hand, takes both sides of her creator and sits them across each other. Seemingly all cards are in her hand, yet that moment of triumph feels more like a cry for help. Should I stay Jinx, or go back to being Powder? Should I once again be a little sister, or continue being a little daughter? In a culminating scene of the whole first season of Arcane, those two voices rattle inside her head, "Be Powder, be Jinx," causing the girl to snap. She kills what she perceives to be her enemy, her personal god, but not out of malice and revenge, just confusion, pain, and despair. And that one death gives her clarity and freedom to finally choose what she wants to be. Jinx literally kills Silco, but in a metaphorical sense, it's a death of her past and her relation with Vi just as well. Ahab's demise is what propels him through the ages of our culture. It's an ultimate tale of hubris and mankind's despair. Which is why it's so interesting for me to see somebody ask the question, what if Ahab has overcome his shortcomings and succeeded? Jinx's future is certainly uncertain, but boy is it exciting. We just have to wait a little bit more. Once again, thank you for watching a video on Culture Leviathan's channel. This particular one and others like it are the exact reason why I've decided to even start this YouTube business. To cover topics and see things nobody has yet done on this platform. Let's just hope Riot Games and Fortiche won't make us wait more than until November next year for a second season of Arcane, lest we ourselves become insane. And speaking of that, here's a little glimpse into our next video. See you soon!